it really just reads like that coworker who they bluff and say that they're going to quit and leave the job, and the boss doesn't beg them to stay, and then they get really butthurt about it. Hey friends, my name is Antoinette Chanel and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got Harry and Meghan updates. Last time I spoke to you, I was giving you a follow-up to my Spare review, basically just catching up on all of the antics that Harry and Meghan have been engaging in. And at that time, I laid out a lot of the PR stunts that they've been pulling globally. They've been going all over the world, touring and accepting awards, showing up at ceremonies, this, that, and the third. None of it seems to be doing anything to boost their popularity globally. So one of the things that I mentioned in my original review of Spare was that Spare was being hailed as the fastest and best-selling international memoir of all time. And initially, I think that that might have been true when Spare first hit the market. It did sell very quickly. People were very interested in that royal gossip that the two of them were promising to give us ever since Megxit started in early 2020. One figure that I pulled here in my notes says that 27 million was the sales numbers the sales numbers that Spare did upon first release. So this was when the book first came out in, I think it was January 2023. This would have been the hardcover. This was the one that all of us got a hold of and picked apart. But what's interesting is that it's now being reported that Spare is also the most returned book of all time. Okay, so here's how they're really counting this here. It's not so much people buying the book and then going back to the source that they bought it from to return it for money, even though that's what it sounds like, but that's not quite what's happening here. What booksellers are noticing is that there is an influx of copies of Spare showing up at used bookstores, and that the sales of the new copies of it seem to be dwindling. So nobody's going out to buy new copies, and people seem to be turning in the copies that they have to used bookstores. A lot of these bookstores also run online book shops, and so what they do is they allow you to sell them back your used books. They might buy it for like $2 or something like that. And one note that I pulled from a resource, Scottish Daily Express, which is not unbiased, they have a right-leaning slant, but it's a figure that I was able to pull, is that there is a bookstore called We Buy Any Book that currently has 567 copies of Spare that they've purchased in 2024. They are offering £3.77. Is it cents? How do you say that? 3.77 pounds. 3 pounds and 70 cents. It's not cents, is it? I don't know how, sorry, I haven't spent much time in the UK. But 3.77 pounds is what they're offering if you want to sell them a copy of Spare. I honestly think that this phenomenon of the book being returned so much is indicative of a lot of how Harry and Meghan's dealings have gone since they left the royal family. I should also back up and say that the same source that I just quoted a minute ago, Scottish Daily Express, they are also claiming that 2024 is the second consecutive year that Spare has been the most returned book, as in people giving it up to used bookstores, returning their copies after they've read it, not necessarily hanging on to it. I really think that the pair overpromised. They said that they had a whole bunch of dirt that they were going to spill about the royal family, about how racist they were, about all of the mistreatment that Harry and Meghan had to go through, about the way that the royal family is friends with the press, about the way they manipulate people through the press, etc., etc. And a lot of it has just been flavorless tea and nothing burgers. Even the big gotcha with naming this royal racist ended up being just a gigantic fiasco. It damaged several people professionally, which to me is one of the worst parts about this whole thing. People who were just doing their job get to be caught up in some controversy that Omid Scobie and Harry and Meghan and their yes people were trying to cook up. I do believe that the paperback release of Spare might have been part of whatever contractual obligation Harry and Meghan have to whoever their publisher is, which I think it's Penguin, maybe? Because it's interesting that he didn't add anything to the paperback edition of Spare except for like a dedication to his loved ones, which is very, very basic. But no new chapters, no new revelations, no new prologue, no nothing like that. And so it seems to me that the paperback release, because it happened so far after the initial release of the hardcover book that we all got a copy of too, It sort of seems like they did that in desperation to like, okay, let's satisfy the terms of this contract that we have. Musicians do this a lot of times. Ashanti is a musician that I can think of that did this. Her last 2 albums, I think, when she was on, what was it, Murder Inc., the label that she was on with Irv Gotti, were like compilation albums because she was just trying to satisfy this 10 or 8 or 17, however many albums she was supposed to produce for him. She was trying to make sure that she got that done. And the last 2, she really just phoned it in. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a multitude of reasons why people do this. You know, sometimes working relationships go sour. Sometimes their creative endeavors move them in a different direction. And so now this agreement that they had, it's just not going to be compatible with their brand anymore. But I don't think that's what's happening with Harry and Meghan necessarily. I think that Harry is backing away from Spare because he's seeing that it didn't get the warm PR reception that he was looking for, and it didn't establish he and his wife as more sympathetic characters on a global scale. It actually turned more eyes of scrutiny and criticism on them. And so it sort of seems like this paperback release was something that he just kind of did out of obligation, and so did the publisher. Moving on from that, the Sussexes released a Christmas card, y'all. So on December 20th, Harry and Meghan released their 2024 Christmas card to the public. I think it might have been released through their Archwell Foundation, or maybe it was through Archwell Productions. I can't remember. It's always weird with these two, but basically they made their card public, and woohoo, we got a rare glimpse of the children. The Christmas card, I mean, it's fine, I guess. It's a collage of photos of them from the year. Personally, I would not select photos of any of those occasions, like Colombia or Nigeria or Harry in that hospital with those wounded people and just the very trivial things that he was saying to them in those moments. I don't know that I would want to showcase that for the world to say, hey, look at the great year I just had, but hey, I also wouldn't have walked away from my royal family if I had been born into one either. I'm not a photographer. I know how to use Photoshop, InDesign, Adobe, creative stuff. You know, I can do some dabbling here and there. When I look at the Christmas card and the photo in question that everybody has been analyzing just to oblivion, here's the things that I notice just without even trying to be a sleuth. So first and foremost, the kids' faces are away from the camera. So this isn't the big reveal that everybody thinks it is. The way that the PR headlines were reading about like, oh, you get a rare glimpse of the children, it sort of seemed like we were gonna see a family photo, and I guess we did, but that's not what the public was looking for. Next, I was taken by the poor quality of the family photo. It seems like something that might have been taken off of a Ring camera or off of maybe body cam footage, or you know, maybe off of a surveillance camera of some sort. Who was taking this photo? It's just so random and weird. Specifically, when I look at Meghan in this photo, I see that her feet are facing towards the camera. Whoever took this photo, her feet are facing towards that person, but her torso seems to be facing towards Archie, and I don't know that I've ever been able to stand that way, even when I was 12. Like, that is me planting my feet and legs this way, but then reaching this way. That seems like really awkward and uncomfortable and not something that you would do naturally. I don't have any dogs anymore. Sadly, I had to put my second dog down this year. But when I had dogs, the one thing that I did notice about them is that they were always reacting to stuff, especially after I had kids. The dogs in this family photo almost seem like they were just placed there. If children are running especially, it seems like a dog would startle or be paying attention to the child that's making the commotion, because that's just generally what they do. I don't even see a dog barking in this family photo. And like, if we are to take this photo the way that they are claiming it, or the way that it's been presented to us as like, hey, here's Harry and Meghan getting home and they're greeting their kids or whatever, then it seems like there should be more excitement, some jumping, some barking, some more paying attention to the people who are moving. just based off of what I know of having been a pet owner for 16 years. And that's it. There's a whole lot of other stuff that's wrong with this photo, as well as wrong with other photos on the Christmas card, but I'm gonna leave that commentary up to all of the great skilled photographers and photoshoppers who are on this app. We're going to keep moving forward. Okay, loves, last but certainly not least, let's talk about this will they or won't they that always seems to be following Harry and Meghan in the press. Will they or won't they divorce? Will they or won't they return to the UK with their family? Will they or won't they be joining Catherine and William for Christmas? Will they or won't they call King Charles III to wish him a Merry Christmas? It just gets really old, you know. What frustrates me the most about Harry and Meghan is that their PR strategy is one that supposes that people are just banally stupid. Like, we just have no intelligence whatsoever. We have no IQ. We don't know what it's like to live in the world and to have human relationships. So we have headlines that are circling about divorce rumors, the two of them not really living together anymore. Somebody asked Harry about this. He gave a witty response. Blah, 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 blah. Specifically, there's a headline that's circulating right now about Meghan making some big decision or something major about fix this, etc. Honestly, I couldn't care less. All these celebrities need to take us out of the group chat. Your marital problems are for you and your spouse to work out. Why are you involving any of us in any of that shit? But also, it sort of seems like Meghan is trying to create the narrative that Harry and his family have way more means available to them to fight her if it comes down to a divorce and custody battle for the children. So once again, here we are talking about the children. Personally, I can't really see Harry's family empowering him to the point that he is able to manipulate and control and like terrorize Meghan. These are people who have had minimal contact with him over the last 3 years. They also have every reason to take issue with the way that he has conducted himself in the media, especially when speaking about them. So I'm not saying that they wouldn't take him in and love him as if he is family. Like, I'm sure that they probably still do right now, but this idea that they're just gonna spring up and surround him in all of this love and protection and money, 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 money until Meghan is just destitute and without her children seems really ridiculous to me. And again, it's like, Meghan, you want us to, okay, all right. I'm in the United States and I'm really tired of all of these hints at the idea that these two are gonna go back to the UK, that they're entertaining the idea of moving, even the idea that they're gonna move to Portugal because they're having a home built. If you're gonna go, just leave. Just, the door has always been right there. You can go. Shouldn't Harry be deported anyway? I heard his visa was expired. Maybe that's gonna change now that we have a new president coming in, so hold your horses on that one. But this whole back and forth thing, it really just reads like that coworker who they bluff and say that they're going to quit and leave the job, and the boss doesn't beg them to stay, and then they get really butthurt about it. Like, it's so obvious to everybody who's been following the saga at this point that Harry is clearly just suffering from lifelong jealousy of his brother because of his brother's position in the monarchy, and Meghan has been a wildly selfish person for her entire life. And so she was able to pick up on that and manipulate Harry into sort of becoming what he's been over these last 5 years or so. Somebody who's very bitter, somebody who only has negative things to say about the institution that he grew up in and literally lived within. Like, this is his whole life and history. And now all of a sudden in your late 30s, you want to talk about how that's a terrible thing and how nobody in this family really knows what they're doing. They don't know how to marry for love. They don't know how to do the job as well as your Z-list actress girlfriend does. Wife, excuse me. And ultimately, I have to imagine that the people of the United Kingdom are probably tired of these headlines that get circulated with this sort of forgotten but still vaguely there idea that the UK people are somehow posing a threat to Meghan, like her safety is in jeopardy with the idea of coming to the UK. I'm sure that's got to get tiresome. With any luck, Harry will be deported and it'll start to put a stop to all of this mess, because I'm tired of it, and I think that the new administration, as well as just people in general, are tired of it. There are bigger things to worry about on a global scale than whether or not you got your photo taken at the right angle to put into your carefully contrived reality series, whatever that looks like next, because I'm sure there's probably going to be another one. Okay, my loves, that's all I've got for you today. Those are all of my updates on Harry and Meghan for now. Let me know what other things you are hearing about, rumblings that you're paying attention to. These two never stay out of the media, so there's always something that's constantly brewing. If you'd like me to come back and talk about their Netflix special, the Polo one, that's the newest one that's out right now, let me know. I don't mind watching and giving commentary on that if that's something that you're looking for. Otherwise, you can follow me on the socials that are here. I say socials, I'm really just on Instagram and I'm only on there like part of the time. But if you want to follow me, you can. Otherwise, please make sure that you stay subscribed to this channel so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much for being here, and take care.